All right, let's keep on keeping on with our definitions. I told you I was loading you up, and I did not lie, did I? We're loaded down here, this whole first section. Okay, so definitions. Now, here's the deal. Qualitative, quantitative. We just talked about that. Qualitative is a description. That's just what it is, right? You're just describing something. However, quantitative, when we're talking about the numbers that go with this, you can dive deeper, if you will, into that. So there are further classifications of quantitative variables. So we can talk a little bit deeper about what these different variables mean, what these numbers mean that we go through. So a discrete variable is a quantitative variable that either has a finite number of possible values or a countable number of possible values. The term countable, and this is where people struggle, so I want you to pay attention to this. The term countable means that the results, the term countable means that the values result from counting, such as 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on. A discrete variable cannot take on every possible value between any two. It is independent. That's a word that I like to use. I'm going to say it again. They're independent of each other. I'm going to write that down even because that's where people are looking at this. A discrete variable are independent. Oh, that looks terrible. Let me try that again. Wow. Man, my handwriting, I'm glad you guys are patient with me, because my handwriting leaves more than a little to be desired, but it is what it is, right? Okay, they're independent. One is distinct, right, from the next one. So there cannot take on every possible value between those two. It has to be individual, independent, individual. You have to be able to pull it out independently and count it by itself. That's what makes it countable. Or finite means it has just a certain number. So you're stopped off at a particular number, right? A finite number. It doesn't go on forever. It is a specific value. It begins and ends. That's what finite means. All right. So that's the first one, those independent, individual, discrete variables. Discrete variables. All right. Then I can have a continuous variable. So here are two different types. You can have discrete or continuous. A continuous variable is a quantitative variable. So we're throwing that out there. That has an infinite number of possible. An infinite number of possible values that are not countable. A continuous variable may take on every possible value between any two values. All right? So it's everything. It doesn't stop. It just keeps going and going and going. From the beginning to the end, it just keeps going the entire way. You can't pull things out individually. All right, so here's some examples. Let's look through this. Let me take off this because I don't want to go over that word because that's important. Not countable. Alrighty, y'all. Determine whether the quantitative variables are discrete or continuous. So we're just throwing this down. The number of heads obtained after flipping a coin 5 times. What is that? Discrete or continuous? It's discrete because you count. First one, boom. That is separate from the second time I flip the coin. It was just separate from the third time I flipped the coin. That's what makes this discrete. All right, because individual coin flips, those are separate and countable. Flip it once, there's 1. Flip it twice, there's 2. Do you see what I'm saying? Then you count those numbers because you count up the number of heads. All right. Number of cars that arrive at a McDonald's drive-thru between 12 and 1. Again with the discrete, right? Because they're individual cars. Those are individual cars in the McDonald's drive-thru. Now, what if I said the distance from the ordering thing, right, that you talk to and make your order to the drive-through window. What about that distance? Does it start and stop? No, that's continuous. So do you see the difference? I could be talking about the same thing in McDonald's drive-through if I'm talking about the number of cars. So here we are at the little ordering window. Yeah, because I'm that good. And like, this is where you give your order. And then you drive around. And then here is where you pay. So let's just say that. So here's my little car. Oh, you guys, you're going to see my lack of ability here. Here's my little car. As I'm going through here, and then I have my little car that comes out. That's my car. Contrary to popular belief, that's a car. Those are the tires. Oh my. So if I'm going from here to here, let's say it's, I don't know, 500 feet. I'm giving a value to that, 500 feet. So that is a measurable value, 500 feet. So we know that that's quantitative. Now the question is, on these quantitative variables, because this is where people struggle, on a quantitative variable, both of these are quantitative, but is it discrete or continuous? This is continuous. The distance, because my car rolls the entire time. Yes, it's a 500, but I don't jump between each foot, do I? No, I'm driving continuously that entire time. That's what makes that continuous. That's how you can determine continuous. On part B here, it says the number of cars. So you count individual cars as they go through. That is discrete. The distance from the order window to where I pay, for the order kiosk thing, I don't even know what to call it, to where I pay is continuous. You see there's that distinction between those two? Okay, so look at, oh, for crying out loud, look at part C. The distance a 2019 Toyota Prius can travel in a city driving conditions with a full tank of gas. Are you jumping around in this Prius? No, you're driving. I'm on the road the entire time and I am just driving. I am just going to a place. That is continuous. Right? It can't be independent pieces. That is continuous. All right? A question that typically comes up that is in your homework that we talk about is the quantity of a dog bowl, right? Water in a dog bowl. So here's my water, contrary to what it looks like. That's my water here in a dog bowl. How much water is in a dog bowl? I don't know, let's say 5 cups. Are there 5 individual, set apart from itself, cups in the dog bowl? No, it's all together, right? It's all together. It's this liquid that's pushed together all in this dog bowl. Is that discrete or continuous? Yes, that is continuous. Because I can't pull out each little molecule or each little cup by itself, right? It's all together in the bowl. I can't distinguish one cup from another. It's all pushed together in that bowl. All right, so when I look at this, it's all together. It's just one bowl. It's the quantity here of 5 cups. That's what makes it a quantitative variable, but it is a continuous because it's all together. People struggle with that discrete continuous, and so I did this little bit extra because I wanted to make sure that made sense to you. Okay, so let's keep on keeping on here with our variables and talking about them. All right, a list of observed values for a variable is data. So we're still back to more vocab. Surprise, surprise, right? So it's just the list of observed values. That's data. Gender is a variable. The observations, male and female, are data. All right. Okay. So I have the variable and then my observations are based on that variable. All right. And so you'll see that down below whenever we do this example 5, how that plays out. Quantitative Qualitative is what we're talking about first. Our observations corresponding to the qualitative variable. So qualitative data would be, if you have ice cream, what are your flavors of ice cream? That's what your data is, right? That's what you're coming up with there. You've got your variable of ice cream, and then your qualitative are the chocolate, vanilla, because those are characteristics that go with it. All right. Quantitative data are observations corresponding to a quantitative variable. All right. So let's bring this bound up here. So quantitative, if I'm talking about the number of heads by flipping a coin. All right. I'm talking about my coin and I'm observing how many heads are flipped. That's my data that goes with that. Quantitative data that goes with that. All right. Discrete data, we're diving even deeper, right? Those are observations corresponding to a discrete variable. Boom, we just talked about those. Continuous are observations corresponding to a continuous data. Now, here's the deal. Mathematicians aren't creative. Not even a little bit. What it's called is what it is. So what just happened here was the fact that we are now putting the word data with the other words that we already know. So it's a list of observed values. Okay, so once I'm saying I have this variable, whether it is qualitative or quantitative, then my observations associated with whatever I'm talking about, that's the data. Boom. That's all it is. And if you have quantitative data, well, it could be discrete or continuous. Boom. That's all it is. Right? It's just saying the number that's associated with those observations. So take a look here. Distinguishing between variables and data, because that's the real question here. So table 1 presents a group of selected countries and information regarding these countries as of July 2018. Identify the individual, the variable, and the data in table 1. So we're even going back to the individual here. So what are the individual pieces associated with this? Can you see that very well? And it's on your paper too, so you'll have that. So I have this country, Australia, has a government type, and it has a life expectancy and a population. So this is the information out of table 1. I have a country, a government type, a life expectancy, and a population. All right. What are the individuals that we're talking about here? Yes, the countries. Those are the individual pieces. From this country, then I have a government type, life expectancy, population. That's what we're looking at. All right. So that is where we're starting with. All right. What are the variables associated with this individual? So what am I getting out of Australia? What are my variables? Yeah, the 3 things we're talking about. Government type, life expectancy, and population. So my variables are all of those. Government type, life expectancy. I need life expectancy and population. Government type, life expectancy, I spelled that wrong, and population, right? So those are the 3 things. What do we know about Australia, which is my variable? Well, we know its government type, we know the life expectancy, and the population. Sweet. Then what are the observations? What is the data associated with that? Yeah, the observations are that data, right? Okay, so for the values that go there, right? So if I have the government, let me try again. From Australia, which this is our countries, underneath government type, I have this data. That is data, that is data, that is data, right? My individual here that I'm looking at is going to be, let's write this out. So my individual is the black column, right? It's my red data that I go with this. Those are my individuals. Those are the countries. My variables that go with it, that is my big overall category. Those are the blue columns. Within those blue columns, wait, let me move this because I just realized that I put that down below. I'm going to put that up there so it fits with the black columns then. All right. So my blue columns are my variable, are the variables, or the different types that we're looking at, the different categories or groups of data that we're looking for. Now my data itself are the green values. That is my actual data. It is the actual types of government. Actual types of government. The actual types of government. The actual years of life expectancy. And the actual millions of population. That is how I'm playing this out. Does that make sense? So we look at this chart and we just see all the data and we get it. But in statistics, we dive it out. So if I specifically say, what are the individuals? Oh, that's my category. And then from those individuals, I have the different variables which lay out what I'm talking about. And then the numbers and the data that's associated with those categories, which are those variables, then that is the actual data. All right. We're just putting a name to what it is that you can look at. And I know you can look at this chart and automatically give that information. We're just putting a name and some vocabulary to it. All right.